Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight, and welcome to the District 5 Town Hall. My name is Courtney Puniscus, and I serve as the Community Engagement Officer for the County Executive's Office. I will be your lovely moderator for this evening. Thank you. There are a few house rules that I wanted to get out of the way before we begin. The restrooms are a little bit ways away. They're out of the door, the clear doors over there, and then make a right to hit the men's and the women's restrooms. And also, we have 63 folks registered to testify tonight, which is wonderful, but we're going to have to keep it moving, if you don't mind, when you testify to your 2 minutes or less. So, as I begin, this town hall is part of our annual Budget Hall Town Series, and it's your opportunity to let county leaders know what you think should be funded in the county's FY24 budget. This evening, we will hear brief opening remarks from our county executive, Stuart Pittman, and Councilwoman Amanda Fiedler. Then the county executive and budget officer, Chris Traumbauer, will share a brief presentation about the outlook for our FY24 budget. After the presentation, we will open the floor for public testimony, and you will get a chance to share your thoughts. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the other elected officials we have in the audience tonight. We have Dana, I'm so sorry for the pronunciation, Shelheim, excuse me, Board of Education, District 5. And I'd also like to introduce the county staff that we have here this evening. Mr. Sam Sneed, Office of Transportation. Ms. Pam Brown, also of Transportation as well. Excuse me, Partnership for Family, Youth, and Children. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Sarah Stein of Aging and Disabilities. Mark Wiedemeyer, Office of Inspections and Permits. And Beth O'Connell, Department of Public Works. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce County Executive Stuart Pittman.
I will be very brief since there are 60-something people who want to testify. It's great to see this many people out. These budget town halls, we went virtual for a couple of years. We were in person before that, and we do them every year in every district, I think you know. And I think we're averaging about 100 per. So I think by the end of this, we will have had 700 people show up and tell us what they think we should spend their money on. And that's the idea, is for you to do that. And we've heard a lot about public safety, education, some of the departments of county government, and those are really important, and I love hearing, and it's important for you to hear from the advocates on those issues, but it is really great hearing about the specific local things, and I know we'll be hearing about sidewalks and a few other things tonight that are local, absolutely local. And sometimes this stuff actually gets into a budget and it wasn't even on the radar before the town hall. So it's worth coming to these things. It's worth advocating. And in addition to speaking out, you get to hear from your neighbors what they think and what they care about. So thank you for being here, and I will turn it over now to Councilwoman Amanda Fiedler.
Not as tall as the county executive. Thank you to everyone who came out this evening. I too will be brief. I echo the sentiments that the county executive has made. It's wonderful to see so many people here this evening. This is very reminiscent of 2019. So we're on our way to a robust budget discussion. As you speak tonight, remember that our ears are listening, and the County Council will be listening to you through the entire budget process. When I look back at past budgets, there are two that really come to mind as far as not being on our radar, but you all came out and it made a difference. The purple shirts, I know that they are here tonight for Friends of Anne Arundel County Care and Control. And then our school counselors brought something to our attention last year that really needed some state support to get done, but it was something that the council was very interested in. So bring it forward this evening. I see sidewalks here tonight, a few others who have already reached out, but don't take your foot off the gas pedal. It's going to be quite a busy few months. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Trumbauer. I am the Anne Arundel County Budget Officer. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a fiscal preview and summary of where we are at this moment in time. The good news for you is I think this is my 5th or 6th one, so I'm getting pretty good at it. The bad news is I see a lot of familiar faces, and you've seen this before, and it's the same show, okay? So I think, honestly, Mike Shire, you could give this presentation at this point. So anyway, we'll move. This is the county executive's message. You can read that on your own time. It's a very nice message. But this next slide, I want you to see, this is where we are in the process. Now, this is important because it's at the beginning of the decision making, right? You see review and recommendation there. That's still to come. That's when the county executive and his team will make their decisions on what goes into the proposed budget. And then on May 1st, the county council will receive that budget. They have 45 days to deliberate on it. So the important thing is, your voices now have the potential to influence what ends up in the potential budget. Okay, next we're going to talk a little bit about where the money comes from. So the county gets its revenue mostly from taxes and fees. And you can see the top 2 bars there are the biggest ones. Those are property taxes and local income tax. That's 70% combined of all of our revenue. There's a number of other important components as well, like recordation and transfer tax, and we get some state shared revenue, but the backbone of our revenue is from property and local income tax. The next slide is going to show you the other side of the table, which is where the money goes. Biggest bar there is very appropriate for where we are right now. It's our Board of Education and the school system. So there's 80,000 plus students that want to receive a world-class education in Anne Arundel County, and we send about 50%, a little shy of 50% of our general operating funding to the Board of Ed, and then you can see the other components down there from public safety and land use, and then some of our component units like the community college and library system. The next slide is just a little bit more detail on how that Board of Education funding number comes about. We give $835 million or so as direct funding, but then there's other county support that we add to that. That's the debt service, that's the interest we pay on our capital bonds for school projects. We support the school health program and also school safety, so that's where the $942 million in the current budget came from. That's 47% of all of our general fund. Okay, so what was in this existing budget? We're about halfway through fiscal year 23. There's a lot of great stuff in the budget that was passed last year. And the top line there is everybody who pays income tax in Anne Arundel County got a tax cut last year. So we reduced the rate by 4% for the first $50,000 of taxable income. And that's because the county executive and others helped pass a state bill that allowed us to set different rates depending on how much income you earn. So what this does is the first $50,000 you pay a lower rate, you pay 2.7%, and then everything after that you would pay 2.81%. We also set the property tax cap rate lower than ever before, so that is good news for homeowners. We maxed out our reserve fund, which is known as the rainy day fund. We've got $132 million in that fund now for when the next economic downturn hits. And then during the pandemic, because we were expecting revenues to fall, we opened up what we call a modest structural deficit, which is where we use some one-time funding the county gets to plug in gaps and keep everything running. So we were able to, over 2 or 3 years, we were able to address that. And last year, we completely eliminated that structural deficit, which is kind of a good gold star in budgeting. That means every single recurring cost that we have, we're paying for with recurring revenue that we get every year. All right, the next couple slides are fun. This shows you where you are as an Anne Arundel County resident in comparison with your neighbors. That's always a fun game, right? So we're yellow. That's a bar. This is our property tax rate. So you can see everyone to the left is paying a higher property tax rate than Anne Arundel, and everyone to the right is paying a little bit less than we are in Anne Arundel. But we're in the lower third. We're paying $0.933 per $100 of assessed value. That's the 8th lowest in Maryland. And you can see most, if not all, of the other central Maryland counties are to the left of us. So we are a good deal. If you look at the next slide, this is just a history over the last 30 years. So the dotted red line is about where we are right now. And you can see back in the 90s, we were all the way up close to $1. It's gone through some peaks and valleys. During the last 4 years of the Pittman administration, it's been pretty steady. But that's where we are. And so you can see kind of a little bit maybe below the overall average of the last 30 years. Now we're going to talk about income tax. This is an even better deal for you. If you're paying income taxes in Anne Arundel County, you're paying the 4th or 5th lowest, depending on how you calculate it. And the reason I had to qualify it is because of that new progressive income tax rate. So we have 2 different rates. And if you can see, our yellow bar there has a little blue dotted line. So that's at that 2.7 level. So everything up to 50,000, you're paying 2.7, and then above that it's 2.81. Only one other county in Maryland took advantage of this ability. It's Frederick. They set their a little bit higher. They are at about 2.85 for their break point. But you can state law says the maximum rate that you can have is 3.2%, and we are far below that. So a good deal for Anne Arundel County. Next slide is just showing you the history of our reserve fund. We've worked very hard over the last 4 years with partnership with the county council to increase that. It can now be up to 7% of our general operating revenues. And so, as I mentioned before, that's about $132 million. That'll come in really handy for the next recession. I know there's a recession coming. I don't know when. I don't know how big, but we'll be as prepared as we can get. So a lot of good things in the budget. For District 5, where we are, I wanted to have just a quick list of some of the things that made it into the fiscal 23 budget. You see a lot of rec and parks projects, a couple public safety, some important transportation projects, a lot of utility stuff. So the list could go on and on. I just pulled out some topics of interest. I wanted to show that there are a lot of local projects in the budget. All right, we're going to switch gear now. We're going to talk a little bit about what we see looking ahead, right? So you guys are going to be testifying for what you want us to do in the fiscal year 24 budget. So I'm going to set the table a little bit on what we're looking at and what the county executive and his team are preparing for. So as we look for current revenues coming in for FY23, the existing year, pretty strong, good jobs reports recently. Inflation is still high and the economy has that uncertainty, but income tax and property tax revenue is coming in as expected. What we're seeing the decline in is recordation and transfer tax, and that makes sense for anybody that has tried to buy a house recently because you know mortgage rates are twice what they were about a year ago, right? So real estate activity has dropped. The county gets a taste of every real estate transaction, so when no one's buying houses and refinancing, then we get less of a revenue from that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But we do have that fall off in recordation and transfer tax to deal with. So if you look at this next slide, this is going to show you what I'm talking about. The peak on the left is the great housing bubble. Remember that? That was a rough time to be in government, or anything really. But then you see it kind of like settled down around 2009 or so, and it started slowly growing. This is our recordation and transfer tax revenue until we got to about 2020, 2021, and it shot back up again, right? Well, luckily, we knew that that wasn't sustainable, so we didn't budget for that amount. So you see that $198 million, that's our best estimate of what will come from the fiscal year 22, which is the previous year. That was way over what we budgeted for because we expected it to fall off. But the good news is when it did fall off in this current year, we're projecting it to land right about where we said. So that means that we're not going to be in a hole. And we'll see what happens with those real estate revenues. The market could bounce back a little bit. It could continue to fall. It could level out. So we won't know. We have a couple more months of data to look at before we have to make assumptions for the fiscal year 24 budget. Next slide is just going to talk about some of our expenditures. We tend to break these up into a budgetary language, what we call non-discretionary, which are things we're compelled to do either by law or because there's some sort of previous commitment that carries over from the previous year, and then discretionary increases. And of course, discretionary sounds like, oh, these are nice things we want. Well, these are things we have to do. It's just the amount that we can do them and how we fit them into the budget. So on the non-discretionary, that's like paying interest on our bonds. It's paying our health insurance fund, our self-insurance fund. These are things we're mandated to do. On the discretionary, this is where we would put things like our employee pay packages, our component units, the community college and the libraries, and then the big one, which is a big part of the budget, is Board of Education funding. So there are some mandates for state education funding, but we have typically, during the last 4 years of the Pittman administration, funded well beyond that because there's many needs of the school system. And that is a big one to keep an eye on. So then the last couple slides I'm going to talk about, and this is kind of what's new this year that I think is really interesting, is we're going to give you a window into what the county executive and his team sees. What you're looking at here is a rough estimate of the fiscal year 23 costs for some of those line items. So you see up in the top, you've got the debt service and our pension contribution and all those things. That adds up, those non-discretionary subtotals, to about $21 million. And then everything else that we wanted to do, adds up to about $109 million. So that's a total of $130 million. All the way up at the top, you see that red incremental recurring revenue. That's the most important number in the whole budget because that explains how much money you have year over to year more than the previous year. And that allows you to do either new things or pay for what got more expensive and all of that. So that's our big number. Last year it was 130. That's how we programmed it in. It's a pretty good budget, bipartisan support. Everyone, I think, was pretty happy. I'm going to show you now what we're looking at this year, and spoiler alert, it's a little different. So right now, and it's early, this could change, but right now we're looking at that incremental recurring revenue, about $80 million. Now, you don't have to be super good at math to realize that's a $50 million difference on the negative side compared to last year. So that means as we look to fill out all of our incremental cost increases for non-discretionary items and discretionary items, that means if we want to do all the same stuff, we have $50 million less using current assumptions to do it. And then you can see the superintendent of the school system, their request for county funding only was $86 million. That's more than we're projecting to have entirely, and that doesn't even include paying our, our cops and firefighters and park rangers and everybody else. So that means just things are tight this year, and that's something that I know that the county exec and his team are grappling with. We have a couple more months to finalize numbers and get a little bit better handle on it, but it's looking like it's going to be a lot different than last year. So then the final slide I'm going to go into, these are just some pressures that we're looking at on the budget. So we all know inflation. There's also wage growth. We talked earlier about that shrinking real estate revenue that we're getting. So that means year over year we're going to have a little bit less, as you saw, than last year. And then we do have those state education mandates are starting to kick in. If you've heard of the Blueprint for Education or the Kerwin Commission, counties are having to put more money in to make enhancements to our public education system, which is a good thing, but is also expensive. And then we have those incremental increases for debt service and health insurance and things like that. And then finally, and we have some of our great department directors here tonight, our wonderful departments are always submitting good ideas that they want to do to help residents and do more services, so we have to consider those as well. So that's a lot of different competing needs, and we have a little bit less revenue than last year to start that conversation with. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to the county exec, and he can share a little bit about where we go from here.
So since y'all are going to be talking about mostly probably the things that you want us to spend money on, you saw the numbers. You saw that, with the school board budget request, well, let's go to the next slide. The school board budget request is mostly for compensation, and compensation for teachers, compensation for cafeteria workers, for custodians, for bus drivers. And Dr. Bedell has been going around and doing a series of town halls himself where he's making the case for more, to say that we can't meet the needs. We can't hire and retain if we don't become competitive with our neighbors, at least in central Maryland, on pay. So this is a comparison just of teachers' starting salary. And you'll notice that the counties that are above us, unfortunately, are our neighbors, so that among our neighbors, we're low. Let's go to the next slide. And I could say that with police. I could show you that with fire. I could show you that with librarians, which we'll probably hear from tonight, and other county employees as well. But that's really the biggest pressure that we feel. And I think one of the biggest challenges of local government right now, and really of businesses as well as workforce, and hiring and retaining the workforce we need to deliver the services. And it's expensive right now, becoming more expensive. So our choices are, given the numbers that Chris showed you, we can cut in some places in order to fill in others, that's one option. The next is to do what has been done in a lot of counties, and what Chris talked about is to cheat, really. It's to use one-time money as though it were recurring when we don't think it will actually recur. So we have a fund balance from last year. If we were to use that for things like pay and hiring new people, we'd be committing ourselves to continuing to pay them at that rate and hiring and keeping those people on. So then it's a recurring expense. So that creates a structural deficit. Not a great option. And then the third is to raise revenue, is to increase revenue to pay for the stuff that we say we want. Property tax and income tax, of course, being the two big sources. So the next slide. So if we decided that on the property tax we wanted to raise revenue, just for mathematical calculations in your mind, remember we're at 93.3 cents. We were at $1 at one point in the early 90s before we had the revenue cap, and our neighbors are at $1 and above in Central Maryland. Every 1 cent that we go up, gets us $8.7 million. So you can do the math in your head of if we were at $1 instead of 93 cents, that's 7 cents, 7 times 8, 56, close to $60 million or so in revenue. If we did half of that, we'd get half of 60 million, 30 million. Those are options on the table. And then income tax is similar number. Every 1/10 of 1% we go up, we get $10 million in revenue. And at least the first year, we get even more after that. But so we're at 2.8. If we went to 2.9, we'd get 10 million. If we went all the way to 3.2, that's another 4%. That's about $40 million. So you can start to think in your mind. If you, with the progressive income tax, we used it to cut taxes last year. So the first 50,000 of income for everybody, you got a lower rate. We could go back at a higher end and set any bracket that we want. We could say everybody above $300,000 in income, that money, that taxable income above 300, we could say that's going to get a higher rate. And every 1/10 of 1% we go up on that. Gives us 1.4 million. So if we went to 3.2, which is where our neighbors are, for the highest income folks, or at least the highest part of their income, above that amount, it'd give us $5.5 million. So not as much of a bang for the buck, but a more fair way to do it, in my view, because it's based on need. So, I say these things not to scare anybody, but to make people think about what they're asking for and to make people think about what our options are. This is the time always when, maybe my least favorite time of year is when we have to make budget decisions and figure out what we're not going to fund and what we're going to ask for of our taxpayers. So the next slide, just quickly, is if you're a nerd and you like to keep track of the departments of county government and their performance metrics and all of that, this is a growing site, aacounty.org/open Arundel. And they're putting that data up for everybody to see. And there's some cool maps as well that show you things that are going on in your neighborhood. And then if you really want to dig into the budget, every dollar in every department, you can dig down in this new tool that we started just this last year, aacounty.org/BUDDE, the Budget Buddy, Budget Data and Development Explorer. That's got a real ring to it, I know. So if you're into that, you can go there. I'll stop talking. I will note that when the councilwoman and I will not respond to everybody's individual testimony, but at the end we will respond probably by topic. We'll be taking notes as we always do. And we've got somebody taking notes. Sandra, it looks like, is taking, or is Jenny? Sandra is taking notes tonight. So we will have very copious notes of everything that you say. So thank you.
Okay, can you guys hear me? All right. Now is the time for the public testimony portion of the evening, where we get a chance to hear from you guys. This is your chance to let county leaders know what you would like funded in the FY24 budget. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to give their testimony. For the sake of time, the county executive and council member won't respond to every comment, but they are listening and taking notes and will share their thoughts after we have heard from everyone. So please stick around to the end to hear their responses. I will start with the list of residents who indicated that they would like to speak when they checked in this evening. I will call about 5 names at a time. When I call your name, please line up in the order behind the microphone right here. After we have gotten through the list of people who signed up to speak, we will open the floor for anyone else who would like to share their budget request. If we don't have time to hear from you tonight, or if you think of something else you would like to share, please email your request to budget-comments@aacounty.org. One more time, budget-comments@aacounty.org. I will now call on several of you. Please line up behind the microphone in order to speak. Furthermore, please speak directly into the microphone that everyone can hear you clearly. And please state your name before you begin. I have a Kathy Sorick, Aaron Van Andes, Claudia Barbara, Maria Coate, and Drew Martin.
Oh, is it too high? You can tilt it down. Bring it down. Tilts. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm Kathy Sorsey. I get your newsletters, which I really appreciate. I've been talking, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up parks right away. So I've been talking about parks to Amanda and Pam and the Recs and Parks Department and the Broadneck Trail staff responsible for the trail, as well as the contractors, for 5 years, certainly before pandemic. I live near Arnold Park, which is a small neighborhood park over near the water pumping station for the Broadneck Peninsula. And it's a nice little park. I will tell you, I've lived there a long time, and most of the past work was creating ball fields. And that's fine, because my kids played there. But during the pandemic, it was deserted. No one was there. There are little to no facilities for any other activities other than organized sports. And there is no safe access to this park except by driving. I have talked to Recs and Parks, and they have told me that they have lots of neighborhood parks, 25 or 30 maybe, and they have no money to upgrade them. The Broadneck Trail people told me, and I've looked at your long-range planning documents, which agrees that there are no plans to connect the neighborhoods, the schools, and the parks to the new Broadneck Trail. They kind of hope that this will be paid for by the neighbors, like the homeowners association, that those connections will be made that way. So my suggestion and my request is that you adjust your perspective a little bit. I know you get a lot of requests for big projects and you get a lot of visibility, but you also get resistance. And I like the trails. They're a big flashy thing. I don't have a problem with your improvements of the West County facilities, but what I'm asking is for small projects to diversify the small facilities you already have so that more people could use them for more activities. For example, I don't need a big upgrade of Arnold Park, but if you could put a walking path around that park, then seniors like me and mothers with babies could use it.
Ma'am, if you can please conclude your remarks. Thank
I will.
you.
Or if you can add sidewalk access or some access to that park, it would be a tremendous help. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive and Councilwoman Fiedler. My name is Arjen van Andel. I'm one of the residents in this district, and I'm also the chair of the Transportation Commission of Anne Arundel County. Thank you for giving this opportunity to pledge for more support for public transit in our county. Transit is needed for the most vulnerable residents. Since 2009, Anne Arundel County needs assessments have noted access to transportation as one of the top 3 needs for county residents. A workshop even with the county executive and its leadership in the summer of 2022 highlighted that transportation was mentioned in the top 2 priority items of each of the 3 subcommittees. Lack of reliable transportation impacts our most vulnerable residents, including low-income families, persons with disabilities, young adults, and elderly. Addressing those transportation needs also helps address the following county issues. Transit is needed to mitigate traffic congestion. Transit accounts for only 3.9% of work trips in our county. More transit will higher vehicle occupancy, while that will lead to less traffic congestion. Transit is also needed for economic development and workforce improvement. County businesses and agencies are struggling with labor shortages, and potential employees are struggling to attend trade schools and training colleges for the certifications that they need. The county's Economic Development Corporation is working hard to connect those employees to more than 23,000 county businesses. But the barrier is often the lack of reliable transportation to match the required work hours. Transit is also needed to mitigate pollution, and transit can also increase resiliency. We have seen that this year thousands of students were not able to make it to their schools. Having more extensive transit service will take the pressure off an overburdened and expensive school transportation system. So commitment is needed to services that can often be gauged by the dollars allocated. The Anne Arundel County Transportation Department receives little over $6 million per year, of which $4.9 billion is used for public transit operations. As opposed to the comparable counties of Howard at $17 million, Prince George at $31 million, and Montgomery at $138 million, we are recommending a $5 million increase to the county transit operating budget to a total of $11.1 million. Thank you.
Encouraging people to become teachers, that even if I did recommend teaching, based on those charts, I wouldn't recommend teaching here. Not when you can make $6,000 to $8,000 more in a neighboring county. So I'm hoping that you, as the county council, will be able to budget and give the teachers more money. Every other teacher group that I'm in, it's full of posts about things. Yeah. What other jobs can I get with a teaching degree? Similarly, TikTok and Facebook are full of videos of former teachers talking about their new jobs at Costco, Walmart, wherever, how much happier they are, less stressed, more valued. While we are hopeful to see Dr. Bedell's vision realized, without money, it's not going to happen. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman. Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman Amanda Fiedler. My name is Claudia Barber. I am a member of the Transportation Commission, and I just want to share briefly some of the new developments that relate to transportation projects. Specifically, 2 months ago, Dr. Pam Brown, who is also a member of our Transportation Commission, as well as Venus Williams, who is also a member of our Transportation Commission, provided us with a very informative presentation on the underserved population. That includes the homeless and people who do not have access to transportation. It may be because bus stop areas are not near their grocery stores. It may be because they live in a South County or in a rural section of the county where transportation is not necessarily plentiful. For that reason, I requested, and the chair of the Transportation Commission did give me permission to develop a sub-task force to address the underserved population. So we present that to you and to this audience here for giving us insight on transportation needs in the entire county. If you believe more bus stops should be available, if there are cracks and uneven pavement on walking routes, are there environmental impediments? Are there trees on sidewalks? We are hoping to meet with the Brooklyn Park Mobility Study leaders so that they can give us better insight, and if they could replicate their study to be countywide and address low-income individuals of all ages. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They're always low for me. Good evening. My name is Drew Martin, and I'm the chairperson of the Non-Represented Employee Committee. We represent over 1,100 employees that are not in unions. County Executive Pittman, Budget Officer Trumbauer, and Councilwoman Fiedler. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Non-rep employees have had no pay raise in 6 out of the last 20 fiscal years. That's 30% of the time. Most, if not all, other county work groups, the unions, have been caught up from the lost wages. Mr. Pete Hill, the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, shared the following definition in the Equity Matters newsletter. Quote, "The equity lens is a set of questions we ask ourselves when we plan, develop, or evaluate a policy, program, or decision. Using an equity lens will allow us to identify and potentially eliminate barriers facing institutionally underserved and overburdened individuals and groups," end quote. This is a roadmap for addressing the inequity that the non-rep employees have experienced from multiple administrations under multiple county executives. The non-rep employees are by definition an institutionally underserved group. Equity can be seen in data. The open Arundel website that you mentioned has community demographics in it. In order to truly have transparency in government, we need demographics for employees as well. We need to see the race, sex, and age demographics for all Anne Arundel County employees. We would like to further see them broken down by each department, also by each union, and the non-rep employees. How are we doing with creating equitable employment? Are we making progress? If we were to show the pay raises that each county work group received over a period of the last 20 fiscal years, we would have a very hard time recruiting anyone to work as a non-rep employee. In your weekly newsletter, Mr. Pittman, you stated, quote, "Governments build or lose legitimacy depending on the performance of the public perception of their performance. In every budget town hall meeting, we hear that employee pay has not kept up. Teachers, police, and fire stress that even though they have been caught up, they are still not competitive. In FY24, you can bring legitimacy back to government by committing to provide the non-rep employees with equity every year and by catching up the 6 years of lost pay increases. Your actions can make Anne Arundel County the best place for all." Thank you.
Thank you. For our next group of folks, we have Kathy Jacobs. If you can please start lining up behind the microphone. Randy Beavers, Cheyenne Dominguez, Kathy Fitzgerald, and Jacqueline Tile.
Good evening to all of our county leaders and everyone in attendance. My name is Kathy Jacobs, and I'm a legal secretary for the Anne Arundel County Office of Law. And I've worked for the county for over 14 years. My concern is with the current cap on salaries for non-represented employees. The long-term non-represented employees in my position, as well as other positions in my office, who are only receiving a cost of living adjustment each fiscal year because of the cap on our salaries. Also, several non-represented employees have not received a merit increase since 2014. It has been over 8 years that my salary and several other salaries have remained stagnant, except for the cost of living increase that we just received. Thank you. There have been many instances where represented employees received merit increases and non-represented employees have not. How would that make you feel if you work just as hard as a represented employee and at the end of the fiscal year you get nothing or a very small increase of 1.5% cost of living increase? Yeah, it makes you feel like you've been punched in the stomach. With the cost of living going up and the threat of our taxes going up, non-represented employees who at the salary cap received a 4.5% cost of living increase the last fiscal year. That was the first big increase that non-represented employees who are at the salary cap have received in several years. However, the represented employees received a 4.5% cost of living and a merit increase. Additionally, in fiscal years 2009 and 2010, we received a reduced salary because of mandatory furloughs, and I don't recall that we received a cost of living increase during that time. Therefore, non-represented salaries were decreased and never recouped anything from that salary reduction. Once again, the non-represented employees were at a loss. Lastly, the county retained the services of PRM Consulting Group to perform a review of personnel classification and compensation programs to support competitive salaries for Anne Arundel County employees. And it was to be completed by October 2021. And as of January 2023, the study has not been published. Can you please tell me when that study will be published for Anne Arundel County employees to review? In conclusion, I would like the salary cap to be increased to allow non-represented employees who are at the salary cap to receive a full merit increase and cost of living increase for the fiscal year 2024 and for every year thereafter to keep up with the rising cost of the economy. Thank you very much for your time and consideration, and have a good evening.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler. My name is Randy Beavers, and I am the president of the Cape St. Clair Volunteer Fire Company and a homeowner in District 5. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm testifying tonight on behalf of myself and our station in full support of Chief Wolford's budget, which includes a funding for a construction of a new fire station in Cape St. Clair. We're excited to be moving forward with this project, which will be replacing a 66-year-old building that we're working out of today. Other memorable events from the year that our station was placed in service include Dwight D. Eisenhower in the White House, the release of Frisbees to the American people, and the FBI arresting Jimmy Hoffa, and Elvis purchasing Graceland. Yeah, it's really been that long. The proposed new station will serve as a gateway to our wonderful community and will provide a safe and comfortable space for both our career and volunteer firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs for the next 50-plus years. The volunteer side of our company has recently entered into an agreement to purchase an E1 fire engine with a price tag of over $855,000. That will be saving the taxpayer money. This engine is slated to arrive in the spring or summer of 2025 and will replace an engine that's approaching at the end of its useful life and has over 164,000 miles on the odometer. We have recently purchased a replacement brush truck for a newer model that has been increased in capabilities to further serve the citizens who live, work, and visit our community. There's nothing more rewarding to our members than serving our community. With a fully funded fire department budget and continued support from the residents that we serve, we can continue to do just that and make District 5 truly the best place for all. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening this way as well. My name is Cheyenne Dominguez, and I represent the Cypress Creek community, where I live and serve as Vice President of the Cypress Improvement Association. Thanks to our County Executive, Stuart Pittman, and Councilwoman Fiedler for your good work. I imagine sometimes what you do is a thankless job, and we appreciate your service to our community. I'm here to reiterate our community's request to prioritize and fund a sidewalk along Ritchie Highway, approximately just 0.2 miles long, from Cypress Creek Road to McKinsey Road. Because of our geography as a peninsula, this 0.2-mile stretch of dangerous highway with no safe pedestrian or bike access is the only way we can reach the business district. The State Highway Association is conducting a feasibility study that is supposed to be completed by March. I heard a rumor it might be a little late. This is in addition to 2 previous studies we shared with the county previously, including a 2010 Ritchie Highway Corridor study, which recognized this segment as high priority due to safety concerns and prior accidents, 2010. And a 2013 County Pedestrian and Bike Master Plan study, which identified this area as a Tier 2 priority in 2013 and acknowledged pedestrian fatalities there. I stand before you now with the expansive and written support via petition from our residents, from St. John the Evangelist Church and School, the support of our Chamber of Commerce. In summary, an investment in this tiny 0.2-mile stretch would have huge, enormous positive impact to our families, our businesses, a church, 2 schools, reduce traffic at 2 very congested intersections. In short, we drive the 0.2 miles because we have no other option. Some residents have shared with me that they started requesting this sidewalk as early as 27 years ago. We're calling on and we're counting on our current leaders in this room to finally make it a reality with this budget cycle. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Fitzgerald. I have been a cat room volunteer at Anne Arundel County. Good evening. My name is Kathy Fitzgerald. I have been a cat room volunteer at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control for 7 years. I would like everyone to hear just 17 seconds of what cats at our county shelter are forced to listen to all day long. I recorded this in the main cat room. Thanks to the poor design of our 23-year-old shelter, some dogs are housed in a room right next to the main cat gallery, separated only by a door that, as you just heard, does little to mute the sound of the barking. So cats who are already terrified because they've been left at the shelter by their previous owners or arrived as scared strays now must listen to anxious dogs barking and whining only a few feet from their cages. This is wrong, and it violates modern shelter standards of care. And this is typical of the many, many flaws in the design of the shelter. Another example, cats who are ill, usually with easily transmitted upper respiratory infections, are moved to a separate sick room. But air from that sick room freely circulates into the main cat room, thanks to the poorly designed HVAC system. Our county's homeless pets deserve a new shelter built to 21st century standards. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Kyle, and I'm the acting chair of the Anne Arundel County Animal Welfare Council. Our council is comprised of volunteer citizens who are appointed by the county executive to promote the humane treatment of animals in Anne Arundel County. New shelter software is a budget item that was approved in 2021 budget. Our council's most recent update on this revealed that the county decided to have the IT department build the software rather than purchase it. While this is a perfectly acceptable approach, only part of the software has been upgraded. More components still need to be done. Data-driven solutions can be produced for different types of challenges that animal shelters face. One example is calculating shelter capacity. It sounds easy, but it's not. There are 4 types of calculating shelter capacity. They fluctuate daily and need to be monitored monthly. ACC is now severely understaffed. Sure, it's obvious that ACC needs to fill every current open staff position ASAP, but it's also important to find the underlying causes for why the staff level got this low in the first place. Analyzing critical data points can help find the answers. Most likely, the data would show that if all 32 staff positions were filled, it's still not enough for the workload. We have repeatedly put staff in an impossible position. Chronic understaffing in animal shelters create ongoing lapses in care that have adverse effects on the health and adoption rates of the animal and exerts considerable stress on staff. ACC has been understaffed for a long time now. A crowded shelter increases the length of stay for every animal. The single greatest risk for illness in shelter animals is increasing their length of stay. We must provide adequate staff to ensure that humane standards of care for the shelter animals can be met. Their lives depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are moving right along here. Our next group of 5, we have Pam Brown, Joseph Everett, Susan Youngs, Ralph Youngs, and Holly McDermott.
Good evening, County Executive and Councilwoman Fiedler. I'm here tonight as a proud member of the Transportation Commission. And I would say that since 2009, as I am the one who actually does the needs assessment for the county, I'll just hold it, transportation has been one of the top 3 needs in the county. Particularly for our low-income residents, there is a real struggle with everyday activities, like getting to work, for instance. And given that we have a huge labor shortage in the county, and it tends to be in the places where people have to actually go to work rather than to work at home, people who need to go to hospitals, our seniors, all of these issues are to do with our lack of transportation. Now, I'll say there's been some small and exciting improvements under the county executive's leadership, but we have a very long way to go. We have a tiny, tiny transportation department who are trying to write grants, do planning, and do all the right things for at least 50,000 people who struggle with transportation every day. So I would ask you to consider the transportation department and transportation writ large as we talk about the 2024 budget. Thank you. We might put it in the side down.
Hi, Ms. Fiedler. Nice to meet you finally. Hi, Mr. Pittman. Nice to see you again. My name is Joseph Everett. I live across the street from the entrance to the Millersville landfill. I'm here to speak, as you're probably guessing, about the move of the Odenton Road Maintenance Yard from Odenton to the landfill property. As you're aware, the county has told me that they do not intend to go for a zoning exception hearing for this new addition to the property, which is confusing to me because when the landfill was sited there in 1974, the county went through an exception hearing. Then again, when the convenience center was added to the property in 1997, the county went through an exception hearing for the land. If the county is not going to follow their own code, I will have to ask you, no, that doesn't sound right. I will ask you, the 74 hearing exception says the 100 feet from the property boundary has to stay undisturbed. The plans we saw, I thought, did not show that. Additionally, the 1997 exception said that there's only going to be 3 entrances to the property. This would be a 4th entrance. So those are 2 exception hearings with specifications that it looks like the county is going to ignore. If the county decides that they are going to go through an exception hearing, according to code, this type of operation can only be located in a W1, W2, or W3 area. As you know, the landfill is RA. The county is going to propose some more money towards this move with the 2024 budget, I believe. I would ask that that money be used to do a new study to actually find the proper siting for this operation on properly zoned land. Thank you.
My name is Sue Youngs. I live in District 5, and I've been a volunteer at Animal Care and Control for 6 years. The facility needs your help immediately. It is understaffed, and the building needs nothing short of a state-of-the-art replacement. The woefully overworked staff and volunteers do the daily shelter work in less than ideal conditions. The interior door from the cat room opens directly into the dog isolation room. Cats who are already stressed must endure constant barking, causing them further trauma. The cat visitation rooms are mere closets. The shelter's tiny laundry room has 2 huge old machines with barely enough room to turn around and store clean towels. Another tiny room has an old large dryer, a rack to store dozens if not hundreds of metal feed bowls, plus 1 old raised bathtub. Staff and volunteers use this single tub to wash dog bowls, litter pans, and animals. Most of these areas have no natural light, and the ventilation system is inadequate. Due to lack of storage space, bags of animal food are stored in the loading bay, which creates a rodent problem. There is no dedicated room to do observations on dogs to facilitate adoptions. Carriers, crates, and other supplies are housed in trailers behind the building, which makes them virtually inaccessible. Currently, there are rabbits, mice, rats, and guinea pigs in the training room because there is nowhere else to house them. The room is also used for rabies clinics. If this situation isn't bad enough, within a few months, the shelter will lose its outside dog exercise runs. Animal Care and Control will then have an inefficient and outdated building, and it will be a public, open, access animal shelter with virtually no place to safely exercise dogs. This is unacceptable. A new county animal shelter facility is needed now. Animal Care and Control should be the best place for all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ralph Youngs. I'm a District 5 resident, and I'm here to encourage support for Animal Care and Control, the county shelter. The shelter plays a vital role in our community, reuniting pets with their owners, sheltering strays, and finding permanent homes, all functions that enhance the security and welfare of our county residents and their pets. That said, the shelter is constantly challenged to improve facilities, staff, and function. The shelter facility is over 20 years old, and it shows. The shelter is understaffed, faces shortages in existing positions, and lacks progressive incentives for recruiting and retention. The systemic job vacancies nationwide, Anne Arundel County will need to make special efforts to meet this challenge through the budget, through the American Rescue Plan and Workforce Development Funds, and by sharing county resources, workers, and of course through volunteer participation. While the county desperately needs a new contemporary facility, there's an immediate need to address the impact of the planned forensics unit. This project will severely restrict animal exercise and socialization. Further, the loss of exercise space will directly affect shelter performance and safety. Safety of the animals, safety of the public and staff, through increased animal anxiety, noise, and aggression, leading to an increased number of incidents requiring quarantine, increasing the length of stay, and other unsatisfactory outcomes. The forensic unit project is needed, but emerged from an imperfect planning. The county has a good capital resource and budget process. It just needs a better one, more transparent and inclusive. 2 suggestions: update the organizational structures, including Plan 2040 IAC membership and changes to the Animal Welfare Council charter by adding bidirectional reporting and ongoing capital asset planning. Finally, you can't manage what you don't measure. The shelter keeps performance statistics. However, the statistics don't seem to be showing up in the right places, introducing the view that if you're not at the table, you might just be on the menu. Growing negative impacts have followed from being on the menu without representation, impacts that need attention, resources, and budget. Animal Care and Control deserves a place at the table. Please consider these thoughts in your deliberations on the budget. Thank you.
Shirley Chisholm said that if they don't have a seat for you at the table, bring your own chair. I'm Holly McDermott. I'm a 28-year educator in Anne Arundel County. The only way I can afford a house in Anne Arundel County is because I own my house with my brother. So here I stand before you, pushing 60, and I can't afford my own house because I'm a teacher in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Every group here deserves funding. I'm still waiting on my deferred raise from Janet Owens. When am I going to get that? I know that there's only so much money, but when a 27-year-old restaurant manager makes more than a 28-year veteran who has 3 degrees, we have an issue in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. How much are your children worth? From what I've seen over the past 22 years, apparently not much to many of you because you're not willing to put the funding where it needs to go. We have a serious crisis post-COVID. Kids are underperforming, children are unable to function in a classroom, and there's not enough money. You're losing teachers left and right. We suffer extreme ageism in the county. We have starting salaries being raised. We're going to start them at 60, Well, that's wonderful because it's an actual cost of living that people can afford. But what about those of us who have been teaching a long time and we're barely making ends meet? Like I said, I have 3 degrees. I work at least 55 hours a week. The only time I'm not working is when don't tell me I get 2 months for summer vacation when it's unpaid. I'm dealing with Brightspace, which sounds like it's related to the animal welfare software because they're both terrible. So I just beg you, please do something about public education because we are seriously in crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for respecting the time. We're going to keep moving along here. Next, we have Christina Fritz, Allison Page Sachs, Jack Keene, Samantha Zine, and Crail Travis Keene.
I like the wide stance. It's power stance. I'm here with my sidewalk supporters, and I basically just want my 0.2 miles of sidewalk. I know it's far. It takes me less than 10 minutes to walk from my house to Giant, but I drive it because holy moly, Ritchie Highway is risky. I just want to thank the other people. I've seen some familiar faces who've also been supporting the sidewalk, and we have 300 households, and it's been 27 years since people have started asking, how much longer do we have to wait? 0.2 miles. I just want to have my kids go to the pool in the next peninsula over. I want them eventually to bike to their work because I don't want to drive them. The library, I'd love to go there more often. Got to do some roundabout, about a mile walk now to get there. In the winter, it gets dark before I can bike there. So today would have been a great day for me to go out, but I'm here instead, so I'd love, think of us. 0.2 miles is all we ask for. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Sachs, and I am a District 5 resident and a member of the Anne Arundel County Animal Welfare Council. We currently have 15 volunteer members, including 3 members who are local practicing veterinarians. Our council members are appointed by the county executive for the purpose of considering matters for the promotion of the humane treatment of animals in Anne Arundel County and to provide advice to the county executive and county departments on such matters. This past year, our council has made recommendations on county animal laws, recommended ACC budget items, promoted special events, and continues to work on the CART, which stands for Companion Animal Response Team. As a member of AWC, I'm aware of the critical staffing needs of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. Currently, nearly 25% of the staff positions are vacant, putting an enormous strain on the existing staff. The physical building is antiquated and insufficient for keeping the animals healthy. There are no designated medical isolation areas to keep disease from spreading. The building's layout does not reduce the stress of the animals while they are housed in the shelter. The heating and cooling system has malfunctioned many times this past year and produced an environment that was not up to standards of care for animal shelters. A new shelter is desperately needed. It needs to be fully staffed. Physical relocation of the building is also needed due to the encroachment and loss of land for the police department's new building. The possibility of restructuring ACC as a standalone department needs to be explored. Being an independent department rather than keeping ACC under the police department has some significant advantages. At our most recent AWC meeting, we discussed these advantages and voted unanimously to support this change of structure for ACC. In closing, I'm advocating for a new shelter in a different location, fully staffed, as a standalone department no longer under the police department. The homeless animals of Anne Arundel County look forward to your continued and hopefully growing support. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jack Keene. I'm a member of the board of Friends of Anne Arundel County Trails and also serve on the county's Bicycle Advisory Commission. I'd like to thank County Executive Pittman and the County Council for their capital budget support for the continuing development of the Anne Arundel County Trail System. We request that they continue that support in the upcoming year with projects including the extension of the Broadneck Trail to Sandy Point State Park and the development of the South Shore Trail west of Maryland Route 3 to Odenton. I want to particularly draw attention to the operating budget needs of the trail system. County trails currently operate with fewer ranger and maintenance worker positions than they had when the B&A Trail opened nearly 35 years ago. But the county trail system has more than triple the mileage they had at that point in time. To maintain a quality trail system that our citizens expect and deserve, the Department of Recreation and Parks needs additional full-time ranger positions to patrol and manage county trails and additional full-time maintenance workers to keep our trails safe and in a state of good repair. We are hopeful that your support for the Department of Recreation and Parks requests for these positions will be fulfilled. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Zline, and I'm the branch manager at the Severna Park Library, one of 2 libraries in District 5, along with the Broadneck branch. I'd like to thank County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler for their support of our libraries in our community. I'm testifying this evening on our most pressing supplemental request, fair pay for library staff. Nearly 200,000 people visited the 2 libraries in District 5 just this last year. They not only checked out nearly 750,000 items, but they used our computers to look for employment. They picked up COVID tests and masks. They attended many of our weekly kindergarten readiness programs, got tax assistance, or just simply found a place where they could be safe and warm. But the most important resource the library has to offer is our staff. Library staff connect county residents with county resources. Library staff take the time to teach visitors to download an app for ebooks, to sign them up for their first email account so they can navigate the growing number of online resources, be it library encyclopedias, newspapers, magazines, or other county resources. Library staff create, organize, and host programs that encourage lifelong learning for all ages, from kindergarten readiness to line dancing, and these programs bring our communities together and make them stronger. Despite the tremendous impact library staff have on our communities, more than 3/4 are not paid at the market rate. They may make on average 12% less than their counterparts in other library systems. There are staff in my library that were hired in 2008 when we first expanded our kindergarten readiness programs, and those salaries got stuck when the recession hit, and they are not where they should be. And now they are seeing new hires join our team with starting salaries that are above their own. And these are staff that we have invested a lot of time and training in, and we want to retain them and keep them in our library system. We are seeking $2.9 million to bring those employees up to market rates so that we can ensure fairness and retain these valuable colleagues and attract the best candidates to our system. I urge you to support our request to rectify these pay inequalities. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next group, we have Dan Tootle, Kurt Sedvitson, Mary Wilson, Juan Dominguez, and Edgar Parker.
Hello? Is that good now? Okay. My name is Dan Tootle, a resident of Severna Park and a retired U.S. Navy veteran. I'm speaking tonight to ask our county administration and council to take action to establish a Veterans, Military, and Families Office within our county government. Unlike our adjacent counties of Prince George's, Howard, and Caroline, as well as Montgomery and Hartford counties, Anne Arundel has no dedicated office within its administration that serves the veterans, active military, Maryland Guard, and Reserve members and their families who are county residents. Of the 590,300 Anne Arundel County residents in 2022, there are over 50,000 veterans, 10,000 active duty personnel, and Maryland National and Air Guard, and members of the military reserve units and family members for an estimated 85,000 county residents, to include 9,000 military-affiliated children in our public school system. 14% of our county residents are either veterans or active duty or Guard Reserve personnel. Anne Arundel County's resident veterans number is exceeded only by Prince George's County, and we host the most number of active duty military facilities within Maryland, with the Fort Meade NSA Complex, the U.S. Navy Academy, the Navy Support Activity at Annapolis, and the Curtis Bay Coast Guard Shipyard. Anne Arundel County's presence of veterans and active military residents and installations within Maryland together provide a very large source of income to our county through income, property, and sales tax revenues. We need to move forward on this matter by identifying and approving the 2024 budget resources necessary to establish the Veterans Military and Families Office that may be responsible for their service and support, an administrative office for advocacy, representation, and focus for all matters related to this constituency. I'm calling upon you to make this happen, and I'm offering my services to assist with this necessary action. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kurt Svensson. A little more than a year ago, I took an early retirement to devote myself to citizen advocacy. After working 25 years for the Anne Arundel County, mostly as the assistant budget officer. I know a little bit about this subject, but I want to emphasize that approaching this as a citizen has provided me with a powerfully different perspective. Due to limited time, please refer to my PDF package I've provided, made available at my Google site named AA County Citizen Share. First, I'm requesting you make available the complete data source file underlying the FY24 proposed budget when it comes out, as you did last year, but please make it available for download on the county website. This is important because using the budget book and the buddy tool, you cannot find out how much funding and staffing there is for specific business units like, say, animal control, or for important details that are buried underneath categories like personal services, things like overtime, wages, benefits. Citizens ought to know what those cost. Second, I hope the county executive and county council will reestablish the financial policy that property tax rate be set such that it not permanently reduce the revenue yield allowed under the tax cap. In the fiscal 20 budget, the county fixed that by setting a rate that corrected for the 4 previous instances where that policy was not followed. Incredibly, tonight's slide presentation celebrates the violation of that policy in last year's budget when we didn't set the rate at the max, leaving money on the table while teachers are underfunded. So I ask, what is the county's policy? Third, top 2 threats that could result in structural deficits in the near and long term. Yes.
Thank you.
Blueprint for Maryland's future. The state DLS estimates for the local fiscal impact are way less than what's been experienced. Truth in budgeting is important. I support Blueprint, but truth in budgeting. Public schools, retiree health, $2 billion unfunded liability. Our neighboring jurisdictions are addressing it. Anne Arundel County is doing nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mary Wilson. I'm a school bus driver. Also, I'm a vendor. Thank you. Remember middle school? Yeah. I'm also a vendor at the Anne Arundel County Farmers Market, located off of River Road in Annapolis. And so I'm speaking on behalf of this particular farmers market. It has a pavilion and the roof is leaking. I believe the county owns the property and the farmers market has a lease with the county. So I'm asking you to consider getting the roof repaired and also having the parking lot resurfaced. That's it.
Good evening. My name is Juan Dominguez. I live in Severna Park,
and I'm here today in support of the sidewalk that my friends have been talking about. I'm a veteran, and I mention that because I've seen some unspeakable horrors and death during my time in the Gulf War. And what I don't want to witness is the death of an innocent person who's walking along Ritchie Highway because they'd like to get to the business district or visit their friends on the other side of the road. So I think that we have great environmental benefit from this. Our business districts would benefit from people being able to have a more walkable area. Certainly our kids would be able to benefit from being able to see their friends in other neighborhoods. And although there's only 6 of us here tonight, including my buddy T there, we also are pretty strong in number, probably 2,000 family members that live in that area, untold seniors and children that could benefit from that walk. I would say this from what I heard tonight. I'm pretty anti-tax when it comes to the federal government and the state because I don't know where those monies go to, right? The federal government spends $5 million a year, or $5 trillion a year in revenue, but we're $31 trillion in debt. I do know where my taxes are spent when I look at the good people in this room tonight. So when I saw that we are kind of halfway in the middle of all the other counties from a taxable perspective, I'd say to the two of you, let's be bold. If we need to tax people more to pay our teachers, to have great facilities for our animals, to pay our first responders, all the folks that work for the county that aren't in unions, I'd say let's go to the top of the tax list for the people that can afford it other than our seniors and be a shining example with the services that we provide instead of being risk averse. I'd say let's take some risks, let's spend some money, and let's take care of all these people instead of some of these people. Thanks.
My name is Edgar Parker. I have been a board member of Friends of Anne Arundel County Trails, a 501(c) charity, since 2002. I have been a board member of Friends of Anne Arundel County Trails, a 501(c) charity, since 2002. The Broadneck Peninsula Trail is part of the American Discovery Trail, running from Delaware to California. I have donated nearly $100,000 from my IRA RMDs to fund trail improvements. As most presenters here are asking for money, I am ready to make a financial gift, but with an important caveat. The only places on the trail where you or your dog can get a drink of water are 4 miles apart at the Broadneck Library or the Parker Memorial at Peninsula Farm Road. Superintendent Adam Smith of the trail and ADC staff agree that fountains should be 1 mile apart, so eventually we need 2 fountains. Water connection to the water main, installing a meter by the utility staff, and buying a fountain I expect to cost $12,000. However, at the present time, there is a $9,000 fee payable to the utilities to connect each and every new fountain to its water meter. I suggest this should be reduced to something like $1,000. This may take an act by the council, and the county executive's assistant would help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Our next group of folks is going to be Michael Lewis, Brendan Bailey, Christina Sipe, Yuhu Zhang, and Sandra Bishop.
Hello, my name is Michael Lewis, and I'm a teacher in Anne Arundel County and a resident as well. There are currently 199 school-based teaching vacancies in Anne Arundel County Public Schools right now. And this is at the current pay scales in the middle of the year. And this can't be much of a surprise, as the data presented before neighboring counties have a significant compensation advantage on our county, with some neighboring counties like Howard and Prince George's paying teachers nearly 10% more than we do here in the county. Prince George's County is slated for another 4% increased cost of living adjustment next year, meaning that with the proposed 6% raise here, we could begin to close the gap and become more competitive. But if our COLA is closer to 2 to 3%, there can be no reasonable argument that there's a way to attract great teachers to the county under those circumstances. As mentioned before, educators were sent a flyer today about telling your teacher friends, people look for teacher jobs for the upcoming job fair. And I'd like to do that, but the subject of pay is going to come up, and I'm not sure what I'm expected to tell them. I can tell them that I really like working here, because I really do. I like my coworkers, I like my administrators, and most importantly, I think I have some of the best students in the whole world here. Dr. Bedell has recognized this issue. Since being hired to lead AACPS in forward direction, he has repeatedly highlighted teacher pay as an urgent issue. And this was the person that our elected representatives trusted with the wisdom to direct the system. And that person has stated that what he needs to attract teachers to this county is 6%. This will not push our compensation above all neighboring counties, but at the moment what we need is to be competitive with those counties because we have such great students. Teachers in the county, the ones I've spoken to, have been very excited by Dr. Bedell's hiring. His presence, his passion, his ideas has been something that teachers have been excited about. And I cannot possibly express in words just how deflated these teachers would be if the request is not met. There will be teachers that would leave the county or the profession for that reason alone at the end of the year, as the message would be loud and clear, that even a new superintendent with a mandate is not able to convince our elected representatives that this issue is a priority. Again, I ask you to help push ACPS in a positive direction by fully funding Dr. Bedell's budget request. Thank you for your time and your service.
Good evening. My name is Brendan Bailey. I use he, him pronouns, and I am an early child educator here in San Florida Park. I'm here to testify on behalf of our local libraries and the importance of a market rate adjustment for our library staff. Libraries are not just a house for books and computers. They are a place for community, arts, education, and connection. No matter who you are or where you come from, our local libraries welcome you in and meet your needs. From my own personal experience, those librarians at Severna Park Library, who I know have shown up tonight, have always gone above and beyond to ensure that everyone who has walked in through the front doors has an amazing experience. They enrich the lives of our youth, people of color, immigrants, LGBTQ+ people, low-income households, disabled individuals. I'm sure this list could go on for hours, and I'm not going to bore you with that list. Our librarians deserve more. Nearly half of all Anne Arundel County public librarian staff are not paid what their peers are around the state. They are not compensated appropriately for all of the work that they do for us and our community when all of those resources are available publicly and for free. Please give our librarians a market rate adjustment. It not only benefits them, but also benefits every single individual in Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christina Sipe. I am a resident of Severna Park with a third and a sixth grader. I'm also a teacher at Broadneck High School. I want to thank you, Ms. Fiedler, for entering politics and defeating Paroka. That was the reason I registered as a Republican to vote for you in the primary. I ask that you now uphold those promises you made when you elected. You said to the Severna Park Voice, you wanted to see better teacher pay. It all comes down to the numbers. That's how you were quoted. It comes down to the numbers. Well, our numbers show that we aren't competitive. Our numbers show that we are short 199 teachers. It all comes down to the numbers. Pay our teachers, help our children, improve the quality of this district, and keep Andrew Bilwalk, your classmate, at Broadneck High School so that your children and others can benefit from them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Yun Hui, and I'm yet another resident from the Cypress Creek community here. I'm here to support the sidewalk that my neighbors has been voiced for several times. I want to bring to your attention several points that first one, that once it's built, you won't be short of people that are using it. Ever since the pandemic, we have more and more people working from home. So when we take a break, we take a walk within our community, as of right now. So on my daily work, each time I say maybe 20 highs to my peers within my community. So once it's built, you will see more people using that sidewalk towards the shopping center nearby. That's one thing. The second thing that is certainly we are promoting the local business. So the 0.2 miles away shopping center is not different from a 20-mile away shopping center, because if we drive there, we go there for a purpose. We do our shopping list and we go. We don't spend an extra minute over there. But if we walk there in a sunny day with our family, with our dog, we could explore the small local store nearby, which I seldom pay attention to, even before when I drive. And we can have a drink and have lunch there in the local restaurant, and potentially they can drive more tax money for you so you can do more useful things for the community. So second point. Third thing is that we want to help the environment. A short drive for a car produces the most pollution. And we want to help reduce pollution and reduce the carbon footprint. We want to, but we don't have a way right now. If there's a sidewalk, we would rather walk there instead of drive there. So please consider that as well. And last one, as my peers have mentioned several times, safety. Me personally have taken several take risk to walk there. Sometimes you just cannot stop thinking of doing that. And when I drive, I also see people walk back and forth along there with no trail, no sidewalk. So the worst thing as county officers for you is to see a potential risk become a tragedy, right? So a sidewalk can avoid that. So please do something to avoid that. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Bishop, and I'm here, first of all, representing Bike AAA. I'm a new board member, and I want to bring to your attention that we would like to see a capital budget increase to accelerate the design and construction of the Anne Arundel Trail Network. We'd also like to see the Recreation and Parks budget increased for trail management and maintenance as the number of miles grow for our trails. And also, we'd like to see county staff increase to pursue and execute federal grants for the biking and walking infrastructure. There's federal money out there, but we need staff to pursue that. As a resident of the district, on a personal note, I'd like to start by saying I know there's no free lunch. I'm not happy to see that we're at the bottom third, bottom four for tax revenue. I'm here to say I'm willing to pay taxes for the services I'm asking for. And what I would really like is to see funding for the Safe Routes to School, the Vision Zero, the Walk and Roll Anne Arundel plan that's being considered right now at the Planning Commission, and for me personally, hyper-local public transportation. I have a disabled adult daughter who just needs to get from one side of Severna Park to the other for her full-time job. And I want to shout out to Sam Sneed and the Department of Transportation for helping with some transportation needs. Very responsive, and I appreciate that. But she wants to be independent, and public transportation, especially hyper-local, would make all the difference for the vulnerable individuals in the community who are disabled, seniors, can't afford a car, and that would be wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Our next set of folks is Jennifer Sells, Michael Schreier, Todd Cummings, Aaron Hanratty, and Dennis Hanratty.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sell, and I live in Severna Park. I'm asking you tonight to increase funding for the Police Accountability Board. The best practices from the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, also called NACOL, state that the budget for an oversight agency should be at least 1% of the budget of the agency it is overseeing. The Police Accountability Board oversees 5 law enforcement agencies and does not have 1% of the largest agency, which is the Anne Arundel County Police Department. We recommend that you fund the Police Accountability Board to give them $3.5 million in order to do their job. You are great at writing proclamations. You're great at marching in parades and putting things in newspapers. What you have yet to do is uphold your promises to the people at most impacted police brutality in this county, and putting more money to the, to be honest, weak Police Accountability Board that you created would go a really long way in starting to rectify that. I'm also recommending, according to a local organization, Freedom Fighters, there are no local transitional housing facilities for state inmates who are returning to the county following their parole or completion of their sentence. This lack of housing forces returning citizens to claim a drug addiction in order that they can stay in a local drug treatment facility if they want to be able to return to Severna Park. In addition, it creates a cycle of recidivism, which is disproportionately high in Anne Arundel County. We would like you to allocate 2% of the detention center budget to provide publicly owned transitional housing for returning citizens. My last two requests: increase the property tax rate. We need to fund our schools. It's absolutely ridiculous. Our property tax rate, I think, pretty closely aligns with our performance for state school or for schools elsewhere in the state. And also, we need to return to providing students free school lunches in schools. Thank you.
Hello, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak before you. My name is Todd Kamens, and I am a resident of the Indian Hills community in Arnold. The community of 130 homes has many children and seniors. At this time, there's only one entry point off Ritchie Highway into this community. It is a stretch of Route 2 with extremely heavy traffic during rush hour. Entering and exiting the community during these times is only possible if the slow-rolling traffic graciously stops to let residents' cars in. The State Highway Administration plans to address heavy Route 2 traffic by adding a third northbound lane to Ritchie Highway between Route 50 and the Arnold Post Office. While this improvement is clearly needed, it will make entering and exiting our community impossible during rush hour. I know Ritchie Highway is a state road and does not fall under the jurisdiction of the county. What I am asking is that the county consider funding for a feasibility study to connect a road in our community to a road in an adjacent community. This would give Indian Hills a second safe means of entering and exiting our community. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike Shire with the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police, representing the active and retired officers from our county. I want to thank you, Mr. Pittman, Councilwoman Fiedler, for the opportunity to speak here tonight and for your support. Our county's police officers are well equipped. They're well trained. We've weathered storms with professionalism and poise. We all know that we've been historically understaffed. We do up to 50% more work per officer than our neighboring jurisdictions. We made some gains in staffing after prior administrations failed promises, but by all accounts, we're hundreds of officers short where our agency needs to be. Back in 2011, John Leopold actually cut the number of police officers in the budget, 37 officers. We are already understaffed and underfunded, and we have not fully recovered from that. During his tenure, they also cut our pay, our benefits, attempted to strip us of charter protections that the voters voted for, forced us into arbitration, pushed us into court proceedings, and then began attacking our health care benefits. At about that time, there was an editorial published by the Chief of Police, James Tier, entitled, "Arundel Police are doing better with less." We were not, we are not, we cannot. Our county has grown, our police department has not kept up. Officers are forced to work overtime to make up for staffing shortages. It's exhausting, and the county cannot keep demanding officers put in 150% of effort for pay that remains less than comparable jurisdictions, just like our teachers and other county employees. Our academy class from just over 2 years ago has already seen 33% attrition. From 2018, there was a class, 46% have left. From 2017, 55%. Another one from 2016, 50% gone from the academy class. That is a waste of money. When they do, you don't just lose the person, you lose their knowledge, their training, their experience, and their established connections to our communities. You have to make it worth it for people to do this job. You have to show our officers in our communities that you will support them. You have to commit to the pay and benefits and the leadership that will allow those officers to want to make police work in the best way a career and actually be able to achieve that goal. There are many budget priorities. We hear about them tonight in these meetings. But, sir, your police officers have been working at an exhausting pace for far too long. We recognize prior administrations left you holding the bag on this, but we've been struggling for way longer. We appreciate all you've done so far, but we're nonetheless exhausted from bailing out water when holes should have been plugged years ago. We should have increased our staffing a long time ago, but the safety of our communities depends on you fulfilling your commitment to public safety. The budget is the time that you have the greatest impact on fixing these long-standing problems, Please do not miss this opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erin Hanratty, and I'm an assistant branch manager at Discoveries, the library at the mall, and I'm here tonight to advocate for the market rate adjustment for library staff. I grew up here in District 5, and I went to Severna Park High School. After graduating from UMBC, I came back and began working part-time at the Severna Park Library, which began my library career and led to a promotion to assistant branch manager 5 months ago. I'm a professional working adult, but my current salary does not allow me to live independently in this county. Library staff are paid an average of 12% less than our peers in neighboring counties, which hurts because in 2020, we were the first to reopen to the public long before other library systems, and we were serving their communities. At the time, I was working at the Severn Library by Fort Meade, and not only was I connecting this county's residents to vital services, but I was also helping residents of Prince George's and Howard counties with filing for unemployment, searching for and applying for new jobs, securing vaccine appointments, creating and implementing take-home and virtual programs to support virtual learning and to ease lockdown isolation, because their county libraries remained closed. Additionally, the community pantry at Discoveries has served families from over 50 different zip codes across the state. I care a lot about the communities that I serve, and I find the work that I do meaningful. But my salary doesn't reflect the skills and experience that I use every day on the job. The minimum qualifications for an assistant branch manager 1 is a bachelor's degree, 3 years work experience in a library or educational setting, and 1 year of supervisory experience. A master's degree in library science is preferred. The starting salary is comparable to that of a first-year teacher. I want to stay with Anne Arundel County Public Library, and I want to be able to live in this county. But I and 244 of my dedicated colleagues need your help. Please fund the full $2.9 million for the library's market rate adjustment. We're not asking to be paid the highest salaries in the state. We're asking to be paid fairly. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Hanratty. I'm also speaking in support of the library staff compensation and also proud dad of the last speaker. Sorry. So my name's Dennis Hanratty, also dad of the last speaker. I'm proud of her. So I spoke before you on the same topic, library compensation, here at Severna Park 4 years ago at your first series of budget town halls. You were an active listener, furiously making notes as I tried to articulate differences among county pay for positions seemingly based on like professional qualifications such as degrees, college degrees, and prior work experience. My emphasis then was on advocacy. When so many other deserving public servants, teachers, firefighters, police, were seeking more competitive pay. Library staff lacked coalesced union representation or broad, vocal public support back then. That's changing. Staff are speaking up, and thankful patrons of library services are supportive. And your own engagement in library activities reflects your advocacy for and investment in their role in our communities. As requested, during your first term, staff have patiently afforded you the opportunity to perform your due diligence in the context of broad county employee pay reform. A review of library comps has been conducted, and I think concluded, and you have data that complements your own personal experience working with this unique group. It's now time for action. Maryland is seeing energy being directed toward the relevance of government jobs and the need to fairly compensate civil service talent. Among the myriad competing priorities for employee compensation adjustments, please do not let this group of underrepresented, unsung heroes be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, we are halfway through our list. We are moving along here. Our next group, we have Sophie Auchincloss. I just have a Jamie. There's no last name. Say Capper person, Sophie Potaki, and Nicole Dooley.
All right. Good evening. My name is Sophie Auchincloss, and I have been a teacher in this county for 14 years. And what I will, a lot has been said here tonight. I, like many of my other co-teachers, I work a second job to try to make ends meet. I see a lot of teachers leaving. Now, in the 14 years that I've been here, I've never seen so many people leave the profession. Mid-year, people retiring, And now I feel like I'm one of the oldest teacher around that has been in my school, and no one is coming to replace those people who are leaving. So even people who I did not expect to retire, like now, are leaving. So this is happening mid-year. I'm worried about what's going to happen when summer comes. People are very hopeful. Dr. Bedell is really here to support us. He understands that 6% is going to help. It's not enough. A lot of people realize that, but when they don't get it, this really, really scares me. So another thing is, what about our students? What about our children? Don't we owe them a good education? I mean, when teachers leave, the ones who are left behind are picking up the pieces. They do the best that they can. But there's a lot more work, a lot more duties. People are tired, they're exhausted. They don't want to stay. What do we do to attract those new teachers? I started my career in Montgomery County. I had lunch with a friend of mine last weekend. I don't want to tell you how much she makes compared to me. We started the same year because I want to cry. So we need to attract people. We may have schools, we may have students. We have schools, we have students. If we don't have teachers, what's going to happen? If you don't have teachers, you cannot educate those children. You know, we had computers. We had COVID. We had computers that didn't work well. Okay? So we need these people. We need to attract the young people. Okay? The ones who are here like me, a few more years, they're going to be gone. So we need our children to compete with today's world. I know raising taxes is not something that is popular, but hey, I'm willing to. I don't make a lot of money, but go ahead. Raise my taxes.
Ma'am, I'm going to thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me? My name is Rose Pataki. I'm a 10-year resident of the Cypress Creek Peninsula. I'm here with all my friends here who've come to speak about the sidewalk. As you've already heard, all we're asking for is a 2-mile stretch that connects our peninsula to the business district in downtown Severna Park. I'd like to be able to go to the Giant. I'd love to be able to go to Park Plaza without having to do some interesting maneuvers and cutting through. We've cut through the senior center. We've walked around. We've done lots of things. I would love to be able to go to the library easily with this guy and my older son. And I would love my older son, when he's a little bit older, to be able to bike to see his friends who live closer to Folger McKinsey School, where he's a first grader. So I ask you to please consider it. Also, you know, my job is, I'm an environmental consultant, and it means a lot to me to be able to not drive, to drive as little as absolutely possible. So I ask you that. And also, as I said, I am a resident here, and please, I'm a mother. Please fund these teachers. We live in Severna Park because we pay these Severna Park prices to have the best education, and you're not paying these teachers. My son, he's a first grader. He's not bad. He's had room and substitute all year. So please fund these teachers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sage Casperson. Thank you for being here, Mr. Pittman and Ms. Fiedler. We really appreciate it. So I am here as a parent of 2 children in AACPS. I have been a teacher here for 16 years, and I am a resident of Ms. Fiedler's district. So I am here to ask you to fully support the AACPS budget that is put forth by Dr. Bedell. His budget is an important step in moving AACPS forward and maintaining a high-quality school district. The budget funds new student-facing positions in special ed, in English language development that we need. It funds competitive pay for all staff, which does include a COLA and a step raise. And as we've seen, without these pay raises and steps, AACPS becomes less competitive than the surrounding counties. So thank you for putting that data up there on the screen. One of the things that we see on Route 50 is that sign that says that Anne Arundel County is the best place for all. So I think if this is true, then we need to start putting our money where our mouth is, and we need to make this the best place for all students to experience a top-notch education. And we know that this can only be done with people. As a previous speaker mentioned, we saw this in the pandemic. Computers they don't do it all. So we need teachers, we need counselors, we need support staff, we need bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, nurses, etc. And as a parent this year, one of my big concerns was, will my kids have a teacher? Will the bus actually run? And for most of the year, it has worked out. But the most weekly update rate we saw is 199 positions short, 189 food service positions, 57 bus driver positions. So skipping ahead, I just want to leave you a little bit of a story about how money works in the economy. When Dr. Bedell gave us a $1,000 bonus in December, mine went into the check and out to a local landscape business to take care of an old tree in our yard. So within 48 hours, it was back in the economy. So I know that we have a lot of competing needs here for the county budget, but we want to remember that money that's invested in education stays in the community. It circulates back into the economy. Good schools, we know, raise tax bases, which provide money. So as a parent and a homeowner, I am willing to have my taxes raised to able to support teachers and the police officers and the animals and everybody else who needs quality of life. So thank you for hearing, and I look forward to seeing a fully supported budget.
I'm not sure if I'm the right Jamie because I had my last name on there, but anyway, good evening. I'm Jamie McIntosh from Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters. District 5 is one of the wealthiest areas in the county, but none of its firehouses are staffed properly. In fact, it contains one of the 3 most poorly staffed firehouses in the county. Early Heights frequently sits out of service because they don't have enough people to respond in the fire engine or rescue squad. The national standard is 4 people on a fire apparatus, but 3/4 of each week, only 2 people are assigned to run the engine or rescue squad. Firefighting is a 24-hour operation, but only 3 people are assigned during banker's hours on Monday through Thursday. The rest of the time, there are only 2. How do you fight a fire or rescue person in a wreck with only 2 people? It's unsafe for the community, and it's unsafe for the firefighters. You might think, they can just call more people from Jones Station. But there are less firefighters there today than there were 10 years ago. There used to be 6 people assigned to the engine and ladder truck, but now there are only 4 firefighters who can only bring either the engine or the ladder truck. Would you believe that Brooklyn Park has more firefighters than any station in Severna Park? The decision was made several years ago that District 5 didn't need as many firefighters as Brooklyn Park. Does that make you feel safe? The county also trains its paramedics right down the road here at the community college. Surrounding counties are showing up there at job fairs recruiting our paramedics. They're just waiting to steal the paramedics we just paid to train by offering them higher pay, just like you've heard with police and teachers, all the other professions in the county. We need to hire more firefighters to staff the stations properly and pay our paramedics more so they will stay here in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next set of folks, we have Nicole Dooley, Laura Kelman, Charles Grandy, Andy Eccles, and Diane Evans. And I'm going to call one more person, Sue Young.
Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Kelman. I'm a library associate at the Severna Park Library. I've worked in our libraries for almost a decade, and I would like to ask you for your support to adequately pay our library staff. Your library staff are educators at the desk, on the phone, and in your children's story times. Maybe you need help with ebooks or e-audiobooks, or updating your skills to get a better job, or discovering your ancestors. Oh boy, do we have some online magic for you. And yet, some of our library staff rely on food pantries to get by. Library staff serve as de facto social workers. We've helped give out around 275,000 of the county's COVID test kits and 280,000 KN95s. Our community comes to us for funding for finding affordable internet service and for finding warm shelter that night. If we don't know the answer to their problems, you can bet we know how to connect them with someone who can. That's experience and training paired with people skills. And yet, we have library staff who must get roommates to afford the rent. Some are one car repair away from financial disaster. Our library staff provide a clean, safe place with public computers and printers, with highly trained and capable staff. Librarians are the best search engines, and we encourage the joy of learning and reading and knowing what's up with this beautiful world. And yet, we have full-time staff who have side gigs to feed their families. Our library staff has been underpaid for years. So please, value libraries, love libraries. Also trust this excellent library to ask for what it needs. Prioritize our request for overdue market rate compensation for the staff we want to attract and we want to retain on behalf of our whole county. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gandy. I'm a homeowner and citizen and taxpayer in the Cape St. Clair area. And I'm here to speak in favor of the replacement for the Fire Station 19 in Cape St. Clair. This fire station is first due to my home, my church, my grocery store, a lot of schools, and many of our homes for people in this room. The old building was hand-built by the volunteers in about 1950. It is decrepit. It is too small. It has failing heating and air conditioning. The roof leaks. It's not energy efficient. But mostly, it's too small. Fire engines have gotten bigger in the last 70 years, and standards require more and more equipment to be carried. You notice that there are no fire hydrants in about half the neighborhoods in Cape St. Clair. They have to bring a tanker with them. When the tanker barely fits through the doors of the current station, and when it's parked, there's only 4 foot of clearance behind it, which is a hallway needed for access. The new building is also needed so Anne Arundel County can station a medic unit there. A lot of the calls that they get need advanced life support skills. Currently, the medic units have to come from miles away up Route 2 or from the Navy base. The county also wants to station a special operations truck at 19 in support of the fireboat at Sandy Point. If the special ops truck or the ALS medic unit were delivered today, they would have to park outside. The volunteer fire chief has to park outside. The county battalion chief has to park outside today. It would be easy just to push this off into the next year or indefinitely. As taxpayers and citizens in this area, we must not let that happen. We need the new fire station now. Please keep it in the current budget as Chief Wolford has submitted. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Andy Eccles, and I'm owner of Windermere Farms, and I currently sit on the board of Anne Arundel County Farmers Market. I am here tonight to ask you to invest in the dilapidated infrastructure of the Anne Arundel County Farmers Market. Currently, the roof is in need of repair, and the parking lot is quite a mess. In April of 2020, you were quoted in the Capitol to say, we have the land, the workforce, and the market, while you're talking about boosting local agricultural food supply. In the 2040 plan, the goal is HC7 that talks about diverse, flexible food models that provide a healthy, cultural, relevant, and sustainable foods for the community. Even further, the action plan states that to support the viability of local farmer markets. We have a great location on Reaver Road with new apartments within walking distance and biking distance, and I'm asking you to invest in the infrastructure to support our growth and allow maximum potential for our vendors, customers, and all of Anne Arundel County. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to express the hopes and desires and concerns of the Friends of Anne Arundel County Trails. I am currently the president, and I want to share with the audience who may not really know a whole lot about us, but we've been in existence, incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit for over 20 years. Our contribution, and we work with businesses, individuals, churches, community organizations to do cleanups of the trails and the parks that are associated, or the greens that are associated with the trails. We also plant gardens, monitor them, weed them. We contribute a little bit of art from time to time. We provide benches, not paid for by the county, but by individuals who would like to memorialize someone or themselves or a business. We also, through the grants from Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks, host the spring and fall free concert series. We also have the Educational Planet Walk in the May time frame, which Jack Keene, who has already spoken, has coordinated for a number of years. Why are we here tonight? Because we realize that the staff for the trails is not as much as it was even back in 2013. We started out with 13 miles of trails. We now have 41.8. We need additional personnel such as rangers and maintenance. It would go a long way to keeping our trails up to snuff, which I know the citizens enjoy immensely. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman Fiedler. My name is Sue Young, and I serve as the school counselor at Belvedere Elementary School. My husband and I live in this district and have raised 4 sons through the public school system, and we are vested in the ongoing success of AACPS. It is worth the investment. My first ask is for you to fully fund the education budget as requested by Dr. Bedell and AACPS Board of Education. We are struggling to fill positions and to maintain staffing. Our students need and deserve the best. We are not there yet. The human resource of the employees in all roles and at all levels is our most critical and important resource to achieve that goal. Our students are the direct recipients of the skilled employees who lead them. My second ask this evening is to fund any additional amendments to the Board of Education budget to support equity among the all school-based Unit 1 NBCT school counselors and literacy teachers. While there are multiple measures to define a skilled employee, the Maryland Blueprint specifically focuses on the National Board Certification qualification. NBCT requires educators to be reflective and database decision makers, which are critical for student success. Being great means supporting those of us who are already certified as NBCT in our specialty areas, which is something the Maryland Blueprint allows LEAs to choose to support. School counselors are mandated by Maryland COMAR to balance their service delivery in an 80-20 split. We directly serve students 80% of our time as per Maryland law. We are both responsive counselors and preventative teachers in our role. I serve 100% of the 530 students in my building. This includes 23 different classrooms, pre-K to 5th, and ECI and ACC regional special education classrooms. In conclusion, please fund the Board of Education budget and any amendments to support NBCT Unit 1 school-based counselors and literacy teachers who are already proven to be data-based reflective practitioners and who provide strategic support for student success in the critical areas of mental health and early literacy. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Delilah Schroeder, Mitchell Namark, Simona Simmons, Paula Hendry, and Drew Mutte. And please, folks, if you remember to please speak directly into the microphone.
My name is Delilah Schroeder, and my husband and I are District 5 residents. More than 9 years ago, when I began volunteering at Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control, my young twins asked when they could start volunteering there, too. I told them they'd have to wait until they were 18 years old, the minimum age for a shelter volunteer. Well, on Monday, they turned 18, and I'm proud to tell you that they've both applied to join their mom as shelter volunteers. And we need them. Last year, we volunteers contributed more than 15,000 hours of unpaid time to the shelter. We do everything we can to help the shelter's small, overworked, and underpaid staff. In addition to walking and showing dogs, for example, I respond each night to voicemails left on the shelter's main phone line. My family calls it my second job. Every day there are 20, 30, or even more voicemails from citizens, many frustrated because they cannot reach anyone during shelter hours. I totally understand their frustration, but I also know why staff members are not picking up the line. They're too busy just helping the citizens standing in front of them, trying to adopt an animal, reclaim a lost pet, license their dogs and cats, etc. While volunteers pitch in to help wherever we can, there are many jobs we aren't qualified to do, particularly as animal care and control officers. These officers are the county's 911 for animals in distress, yet they're stretched so very thin that the number of hours each day that they're available to the public has just been reduced. Less service, not more. Thank you, Mr. Pittman, for restoring the shelter's ability to interact with the public on the social media sites and to respond to its messages. It's very important. Now, we hope you and the County Council will grant the shelter the staff it desperately needs and also start planning for a new shelter. Thank you. And as a resident, I too am fine with increasing my taxes to make this happen. It's not going to happen by moving money around. I know you're going to need more. If that 1 cent that all of us puts in makes a big difference, the teachers deserve it, the libraries deserve it, the firefighters deserve it. So I'm fine with raising my taxes. You heard it right here.
Good evening. My name is Simona Simmons. I am the Vice Chair of the Library Trustees. I want to thank County Executive Pittman and Councilman Fiedler for your support to our libraries. You've already heard from some of our library staff, but I just wanted to add a few more scenarios and a few more details. The Board of Trustees' top priority is to ensure that our staff are paid fairly and competitively. Now, we are in the tax season. Believe it or not, many of our citizens go to the library to get assistance. We have one example of this at the Broadneck Library. One of the staff spent 45 minutes assisting someone to get their paperwork in so that they could get their refund. Now, this is a quote from that patron. She said, "From the bottom of my heart, thank you. We are so lucky that you're here." And you've heard other stories. In addition to their regular jobs, library staff provide computer assistance, helping people find employment, and assisting other staff or assisting patrons with crises. And also they help with preparing children for the kindergarten. As you've heard before, there was a study, and the percentage of the staff is 12% less of their competitors in other areas. Of the 266 positions reviewed, 244 were not paid at market rate. So I want to reiterate, we want to support the staff because we don't want to lose these exceptional people, and we want them to feel compensated or have compensation. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. I'm Paula Brinsky-Hendry, and I'm here to ask the county for support for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library provides a free, high-quality book each month by mail for children from birth through age 5. The national organization in Tennessee selects and mails the books. Because they mail more than 2 million books each month, the cost is very low, currently $2.20 per month or $26 per year per child. Local organizations register children and raise funds to pay for each book. Currently, this program is only available in Anne Arundel County for children living in zip codes 21401 and 21403, basically the city of Annapolis. We've grown since 2019 to serve over 600 children each month. We rely on contributions and small grants to pay our monthly bill of about $1,400. It's so wonderful
Mr. Executive, that one of your priorities is kindergarten readiness. We know that when a child enters kindergarten ready to succeed, they're almost twice as likely to master basic skills by age 11. Before the pandemic, the Maryland Kindergarten Readiness Test showed that fewer than half our county's 5-year-olds were prepared for kindergarten. Since then, because of the pandemic, even that low rate has dropped. As of the last test, only 1/3 of African American children and less than 1/5 of Latino 5-year-olds were tested as ready. What can we do? We have to start early because most of a child's brain development occurs before age 5. And we need to make high-quality reading material available to families. Many low-income households have no children's books at all. Providing access to print materials improves reading performance, especially in kindergarten. In a large international study, children growing up in a home with at least 20 books got 3 more years of schooling than children from bookless homes, independent of their parents' education, occupation, and class. New York children enrolled in this program for at least 3 years were significantly better prepared to enter kindergarten. Tennessee children outperformed non-participants in all categories at the end of kindergarten and at the end of 3rd grade. I'm hoping the county funds can be made available to help more children in Anne Arundel County become successful readers by providing books from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Thank you.
Good evening, County Executive Pittman and Councilwoman Fiedler. I'm Drew Much. I'm the chief of the Cape St. Clair Volunteer Fire Company and have lived in the county nearly all my entire life. As you've heard from some of my colleagues earlier, the county fire department budget supports construction of the Cape St. Clair Volunteer Fire Station this coming year. I strongly encourage you to continue the momentum that started over 10 years ago with studies and has manifested itself in significant investments in the engineering phase this year. We have hundreds of pages of drawings, and tomorrow there'll be engineering tests and borings in our parking lot to prepare for this event. There's no reason not to continue that momentum and start construction on schedule with the FY24 budget. As doing our part, the volunteers have invested money in a new fire engine. We'd like to have a new home to put it in when it arrives, and we'd like to continue to grow our capabilities, not only in terms of people, with spaces for them to work, sleep, and exercise, but also equipment to house the equipment. Look forward to your support and want to serve the community for many more years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, folks, we are down to 8 names. We are almost to the end here. Kara Wilkelson, Sandy Clough, Elisa Kraus, Jennifer Jarrell, and John Watts. Yes, ma'am. Go head ahead. Just please say your name.
Hi, my name is Carol Wilkinson. I don't want to touch it. I'm going to break it. Sorry. I'm here as a District 5 resident, and I'm asking as a parent and an AACPS employee for over 15 years or so, probably more. I lost track. So I'm asking you to fully fund the budget. The county needs to be able to retain and also attract quality teachers. I can see firsthand the negative impact that it's having on the staff and also the students. It's hard to do my job properly and be effective I work in preschool special ed, effectively when you have more kids than you are really typically supposed to have because you have to take on more because we're short-staffed. So I'd really like the budget to be funded so we can attract teachers, keep them, and compete with the surrounding counties. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandy Clough. I'm a District 5 resident, and as a senior citizen, I am here to advocate for our schools, for our young children. I have a granddaughter in 4th grade that has not had a consistent teacher for a full year since she's in kindergarten. This year she's on her 3rd change, expecting a 4th, and she's only in 4th grade. These kids are our future. They're the future of Anne Arundel County. We need to support the budget. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Krause, and I am a resident of Severna Park. I'm also a special educator at Broadneck High School and also at Meade Evening High School Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and also at summer school so I can afford my life. I would like to thank you for your support of the previous school budgets that brought the salaries of teachers in the county to the appropriate level based on their years of experience. Many of us appreciate that. I am here tonight to ask you to fund Dr. Bedell's proposed budget. I have been a special educator in Anne Arundel County for 11 years. I've seen an increase in workload for special education teachers over those years, and the burnout is significant. There is a critical shortage of special educators in our county, and until Anne Arundel County Public Schools offers competitive pay with our surrounding counties, it's unlikely that shortage will decrease anytime soon. And if I'm being honest, there's a good chance that shortage will increase due to the intense amount of work that we do on a daily basis with little to no relief in sight. It is important that Anne Arundel County is a place that can not only keep our current teachers because they feel valued, but also attract new and veteran teachers from other areas to fill our many vacancies, particularly in special education, to provide relief to many of my overworked colleagues. In addition to my own experience as a teacher, I am also the mother of 2 new teachers. I don't know why they're doing it. My daughters both graduated from Anne Arundel County Public Schools. One of my daughters is a first-year teacher at Meade High School in the music department. She chose to work there because she was so involved with music when she was a student at Broadneck High School and fell in love and was inspired by her music educators. She wanted to become one of them. My other daughter is currently interning at Jones Elementary in the art department. As a new teacher, she has many opportunities available to her because there is, as you know, a shortage across the state. And I would love for her to work in Anne Arundel with myself and my other daughter, but in the end, she needs to choose the right place for her. She watches her sister struggle as a first-year teacher, trying to make ends meet, working a second job herself so she can afford her adult life. So it is very likely that she will choose a higher-paying county over our own here. Please fund Dr. Bedell's proposed budget so that Anne Arundel County Public Schools can be competitive not only for new teachers, but also to attract veteran teachers to fill many of our open positions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Jarrell. I'm a District 5 resident in Arnold and a teacher specialist with AACPS. One of the main parts of my job is to support new and developing teachers and update curriculum and learning resources for students. But I am typically not able to do that because I'm constantly deployed to fill teacher vacancies and sub at schools where no subs will show up. Every time I get one of these coverage assignments, I'm currently doing one that's the 4th school that I've been at just this year. Past years, I've been at multiple schools as well. All of this on top of my workload that does not get decreased because I'm doing these coverage assignments. So that leads me to do my actual job early mornings and at night after I put my school-age children to bed. Being at all of these different schools, I see the current situation across our county. There is a huge impact on our students when they don't have consistent teachers in their classroom, when they don't have subs, when they don't have bus drivers. I have kids that just meet me that ask me if I'm staying, that ask me if I'm going to be their teacher, or if they're going to get another new person, if they're going to continue to get sub work, or if they're actually going to get to learn. The workload on the teachers is causing them to leave, understandably, and that's having a huge impact on the safety and learning environment for our kids. It's not pretty. The kids are acting like no one is caring for them because there's barely anyone caring for them. Please support Dr. Bedell's budget.
Hello and grace and peace be unto you, Councilwoman Fiedler and County Exec Stuart Pittman. My name is John Watts. I am Senior Pastor of Kingdom Life Church Apostolic, also an employee for Anne Arundel County Public Schools, ding dong, and as well as the Executive Director of Young Black Scholars Institute, Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County, and now I'm doing it in Annapolis. And so I just wanted to share on a lighter note what I am doing in this county and hope that I will get the support from the county to continue to work that I do in Baltimore City through violent reduction and also in Annapolis area in Anne Arundel County. Young Black Scholars Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is committed to enhancing the lives of African American males while developing leadership and academic skills through mentoring, community engagement, and change maker opportunities. YBSI mentors youth between the ages of 13 to 18, and this age range is one of the most challenging phases of our children's maturation process. It is the mission of Young Black Scholars Institute to develop young males in the areas of leadership, respect, behavior, positive self-image, academics, and as our scholars, we were trained to develop positive character traits, communication skills, and embrace cultural diversity, which will promote good decision-making skills and become a strong scholar. We realize that education is very important, and early childhood development is very important, but also with the help of mentoring programs and assisting those who are in the educational system to be able to develop and make our kids whole. We also will follow the blueprint. I'm going to close the Karen Commission that will position our kids for community and college and career readiness as well. And I'm just asking for your help to continue to do this in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. My next three names I have is Richard Wiles, Laura Bardell, and Kathy Hall.
Hi, I'm Laura Bardill. I am a parent of ACPS public school kids. I am a teacher and a homeowner. I'm also a U.S. Air Force veteran. And I am here today to talk about the reality of what I hear from so many organizations, underfunding. For too long, things have been underfunded, and we need to catch up. So I'm here to say I support all of the above in your options to make sure that our civil servants are funded. We need to support our new superintendent and give him a fighting chance to fill all these open positions. And the 6% is really, as a union member of the Teachers Association, we really think it's going to take more than that, but that is a really great starting point. So please fund that budget. So I have to say that, you know, we have a middle school that has 19 open positions in just one school. Here in Severna Park, the situation's a little bit better, but we're a whole county. We want to support all the students. If you have 19 open positions in one school, we need to fill those. And actually, I have a relative who works at one of those big tech companies out in Seattle. And when they were doing the layoffs, I said, well, hey, tell them to come to AACPS. Because they're doing lots of layoffs. And this relative just laughed and said, they make multiples of what you guys make. And we'll pay $65,000 for someone right out of college to sit on a computer at home and do a job. So we have to realize the real market here. We're competing for people with college degrees. We need to say, hey, I have a really cool, awesome, fun job as a teacher. And the pay has to be competitive with all these other jobs where they're sitting, making $65,000, sitting on their couch, on the computer. And I would argue that if we have competitive pay, once they start teaching, they'll have so much fun that they will stay on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a Kathy Hall? Oh, there.
Hi there. Good evening. My name is Kathy Hall. I am a resident of Anne Arundel County for at least 50 years now. I'm getting up there. And I am here also to support, well, all of you. I'm sitting here thinking I'm here with the police department. I'm here with the fire department, the people who saved my mother's life, the people who have helped my child in respiratory distress. We are all together. I am so glad I'm here. And if I have another dog attack and I have to call Anne Arundel County Animal Control and they say, I'm sorry, we don't have anybody we can send out to help you, please do what you can to help them as well. We're all one big family here. As I said, 50 years. 50 years I've been here. I went to school here. My children went to school here. I volunteered in our schools. I became a temporary support assistant for about 8 years. Then I became a teacher assistant, and I know what it's like. I was lucky at the time. I had a husband, so I could afford to live here. But you can't on 20, at that time. When I did it, it was $8 an hour. But we can't afford to keep, trying to get positions funded where, quite frankly, I can go out to Sam's Club and hand out food samples and make more money. So we really need to support our superintendent. He's doing what he's really trying. We do need the 6%. We do need more than that. I want to say thank you, Mr. Pittman, and everyone for finally giving those of us who are teaching, putting us at least where we should be. One of the things many people may not realize here is now I'm looking at retirement, as many of my colleagues are as well. And what you may not know is during those dry years, when I came in, got my license 15 years ago, I was a late bloomer. But the thing is, I came in during those years where it was dry. There was nothing there. So I lost over $200 and some thousand in my pay, and probably over $400 and some thousand I've heard impacting my retirement. So please, at least do what you can for some of us now, so that at least when I retire, I'm not even in the position to go to national board at this point. I'm looking at retiring in a year. Don't want to. I'll probably walk back in. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to speak. And please, please know how much we appreciate it. We know you're an education advocate. And we help enable all of these jobs that you're looking. So I thank you. I don't know if I spoke very eloquently, but I really do appreciate you giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Now it's time to open the floor for anyone who has not yet spoken. If you would like to present your budget request, please line up behind the microphone now.
Good evening. Good evening, Councilwoman Fiedler and County Exec Pittman. As the county population continues to grow, my name is Joe Divinola, President of Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters. As the population continues to grow, I want to stress the need for ongoing resourcing and staffing. Firefighter and paramedic numbers are not being increased quickly enough to account for this growth, putting this community as well as every other community in Anne Arundel County at risk. The national standard is a minimum of 4 firefighters on an engine, truck, or squad. Out of 31 stations in Anne Arundel County, we meet that standard at only 3 stations. On Ritchie Highway from Glen Burnie to Brooklyn Park, we have less firefighters now than we did 10 years ago. When minutes and seconds count, you deserve to be protected. In Brooklyn Park, the average home price is around $266,000. Our station there has 8 firefighters 24 hours a day. Here in Severna Park, the average home price is around $660,000. You have 2 firefighters after 5 o'clock going out the door. Do you feel understaffed? You should. The fire station is not a place to hang out. It's not a hobby or a sport. This is our job. We train every day on the latest equipment and technology in our profession. This is not something we take lightly or do in our spare time. Emergencies happen at all hours of the day, not just 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, we have addressed these areas of staffing with Councilwoman Fiedler. Her solution one time was to cut other county positions and also cut taxes, which is our largest revenue source in this county. Right now, this fire department is understaffed by 400 firefighters and paramedics. When other surrounding jurisdictions around us, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, PG County, Montgomery County, all go out the door with a bare minimum of 4 to 5 firefighters on every piece. So, thank you for letting me speak. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Weinstein. I'm the president of Friends of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control. Yes, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm the president of Friends of Anne Arundel County Animal Care and Control and a volunteer at the shelter for 9 years. As you know, the purple shirts have come to every single budget hearing, not just this year, but every single year. We are passionate about what we do, and what we really appreciate is how much you listen to us. We know you do because we've seen things change because of things that we said at these meetings. We also listen to you. So when Mr. Pittman at the very first hearing slipped and said the green shirts instead of the purple shirts and then corrected himself and said, well, green is my favorite color, we heard you. So we have something for you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Sorry, turned it off instead. Good evening. My name is Russell Leone, and I'm a 5th grade teacher here in the county. Good evening, County Executive Pittman, Councilwoman Fiedler. First of all, I want to thank you for the work that you've done for education. Ms. Fiedler, I know you've supported the budget. You've supported teachers and educators for long before you were in this office, and so we very much thank you for that. The work that we've done to bring our teachers back to where they should be was phenomenal work of the council. But we're in a position to do more because we need to make sure that we are continuing to keep and recruit new teachers. I shared at another county council town hall that I've been teaching here since 1998, and I love it. I've been here a while. If I went to another county, our surrounding counties, the average teacher salary is anywhere from $4,000 to $16,000 more than here in Anne Arundel County. We're in a position to make ourselves competitive again. 25 years ago when I came into this profession, I was actually offered contracts in multiple counties, and I chose Anne Arundel County. I didn't have a personal connection to Anne Arundel County as I grew up in PG County, but I chose Anne Arundel County because I had a great teaching experience in my student teaching here, and I saw the value of it. We can become competitive again. We must become competitive again. You've heard of the numbers, the 200 teachers that were vacant positions. You've heard the lack in recruiting new teachers. I want to know there are teachers behind me when it's time for me to retire, hopefully not for another 7 to 9 years, but I want to know they're just as excited to come to Anne Arundel County as I was in 1998. So please continue to support these budgets, support at least the 6%, if not more, of what you can do, because our teachers, our kids deserve this. So thank you very much. And again, so much thanks for the support of the budgets in the past. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Philip Miller with the Anne Arundel County Professional Firefighters, Local 1563. I've been a career firefighter now for 26 years. And from listening to my colleagues, listening to teachers, police officers, you all know what you need to do. It's time. You've made the first step. Now take the next few steps. We're way down when it comes to taxes. I've lived in this county my whole life. Raise my taxes. Just show me where it's going. Show us where it's going like you did last time. Raise them and get the people what we need. Public safety, teachers, and get Anne Arundel County back on the map again. Thank you.
I got it, yeah. All right. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
My name is Mike Looney. I manage the Maryland Thunder Wheelchair Lacrosse Program, which is a lacrosse program for individuals with physical disabilities. We're one of about 15 lacrosse programs in the country. We've won the 2019 Wheelchair Lacrosse USA National Championship, and we're consistently ranked in the top 3 nationally. There's few facilities and programs throughout the county's parks and facilities for adaptive sports or wheelchair sports. And ultimately, I can't do anything in the county with my program because we don't have any street hockey rinks that we utilize. And I have to rely on other counties' facilities to be able to run my program. So I'm asking for better access to facilities and recreation programs for individuals with disabilities here in the county. This would include building street hockey rinks at some of the parks that we have. This would allow us to have better access and better programs for individuals with disabilities, not only adults but youths within the county. And as someone who's lived with a disability for almost 23 years, wheelchair sports, wheelchair programs are probably the only reason why I'm still here today, by having access to those. So that is my ask, just to kind of give better access of wheelchair sports for our residents. Thank you.
It's a long night, and I feel really humbled. My name is Paul Spadaro. I'm president of the Magathie River Association and the Magathie Riverkeeper. And I don't want to really talk a long time, less than maybe a minute. But it would be amiss if I didn't really bring up some environmental issues that really need to be addressed. You know, the pollution in the Magathie or even in the Severn is now being picked up by satellites. And this one-size-fits-all, the way we treat development issues, is just not working for the Magathie anyway. And something needs to be done with this. And I know we talked about, Lake Waterford. I hope the funding is still there for the dredging that's needed. We considered it a major pollution source. And then in addition to that, Cattail Creek has had horrific water quality. And so something needs to be done on a larger scale. A 2.5-mile restoration needs to be done on that. You realize that I'm fiercely passionate on some of these issues, and I am humbled tonight in listening to the discussions with the teachers and the public employees. As a former public school teacher, I know where that's coming from, and I think we really need to, raise our taxes to address these issues. The environmental concerns are not obvious. Every day we see things happen, and the best way to think about this is every new house is 2 more cars in front of you on Ritchie Highway. So think about those issues. The health of the river has dropped to a point where it's almost unhealthy in many cases to go swimming. So we really have to figure out what our infrastructure problems are and begin to solve them, even if it's a little bite at an apple at a time. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, very much. I want to thank everyone for the great dialogue tonight. If you have any additional budget comments to share, please email them to budget-comments@aacounty.org. Now I will turn it back over to our elected officials for closing remarks. We will begin with Councilwoman Fiedler.
Well, we certainly filled up a few hours here, haven't we, talking about a lot of important goals and requests from the community. I thank you for sharing all of those. I'm not surprised by any of them. The last gentleman, or second to last gentleman who spoke, I know he exited, but that's an example of something that we just aren't aware of. Access and wheelchair accessible hockey, I think he said street hockey courts. Those are the things that we really rely on you all to bring to us. I think the county executive and budget officer did a phenomenal presentation to kind of tee up the really difficult decisions that we're all going to have to make at the council level and the county executive's office in the next few months. But I mean it when I say keep your gas on the pedal, because your input is incredibly influential during this process, and we'll do everything that we can do to communicate our priorities back to you when we work through the budget process. So thank you again. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I do send my newsletter out twice a month. If you are not on it and would like to be on it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can go to the County Council website, and my email information is there. Thank you again.
I won't go through everything since, although you all stayed, so maybe you want me to go through everything, but it's overwhelming, isn't it? I mean, it really is, and the needs are great. So we hear you, and we got some tough decisions to make. I do have a couple little updates for those of you who are here. For the sidewalk on Route 2 between McKinsey and Cypress Road. When we met back in early November, we had just sent the letter, Sam Snead had just sent the letter requesting the study from SHA. Obviously these sidewalks it's a state road, they get built by the state. We can't just go in and build them for them. We could write them a check and that would help, but they do have to do their study anyway. So they had a meeting today. I just got an email from Mr. Snead at SHA, and they have the consultant working. Sometimes they say they're going to do these things, and then they just don't get to them. So they say they have the consultant working. The work has begun on the study, but they did say to be completed by May 12th. So, not March, but it is the government. But I think the fact that, the new administration at the state level is filling a lot of vacant positions, 30% vacancies throughout state government. And we think that state highways will be funded and staffed and be able to complete these jobs. And we have a great relationship with those folks. So fingers crossed. And she's right, keep your foot on the pedal because these things can drop. Those of you who are here to talk about Cape St. Clair firehouse in the budget, you're smart to continue because while it is in there, it can be taken out. We have no intention of taking it out. I checked on the way. It's still there. And we need to get that done. I think, let's see, for animal care and control, the issue of the dog runs that was threatened by the new building, I'm told that that ain't going to happen. At least that the new building will not interfere with where the dog runs are. They need to show you a design that shows you exactly where things will be, but I think they're still working through that. It is frustrating when a building that's only 20-some years old is outdated, and I think maybe standards have changed for animal care and control. I hear you when you say that you want to be an independent agency as opposed to part of the police department, and it turns out they feel that way too. So maybe there's a divorce coming. They say, why are we doing this? This is not our thing. So we actually talked about that just yesterday, and we're going to consult with the Animal Welfare Council and others and figure out a plan going forward. But I hate hearing about 30% vacancy rate in animal care and control, and that is a problem that needs to be fixed immediately as opposed to waiting, particularly the positions that are there. But it was great to hear so many educators here and parents as well talking about the school board budgets. The school board will vote on their budget request here, I think it's in the next week, but we expect it to be very close to what the superintendent has requested. And I agree with you. We have a new superintendent who we really want him to succeed. And he's told us what the tools are that he needs. Thank you for being here, though, and speaking in such a heartfelt way about the needs there. And thank you for being here, our firefighters, our police officers, our library folks, our non-represented employees. I think your message is really resonating because I have never been to a town hall where so many people ask for a tax increase. It happened in District 6 last week, a couple people towards the end, but I never would have thought that in your district I would have heard so many people ask for that. We have one more to go. So Is there anything else? I think that's about. I'll leave it with that. I think one person did ask about that compensation study and when it is going to be available. I've been asking the exact same question. I expect it to happen very soon, and maybe we can use it to justify funding some of the things that we're asking for here. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for staying so late, hanging out, listening to all your neighbors. I think it was a wonderful evening. I really enjoyed these. I know you enjoy these. You are our shared constituents, so we will be consulting. Thank you, everybody.